Dave-ish. So what is it? If you are in the personal finance world, you've no doubt have heard of Dave Ramsey, and that's where Dave-ish comes from, meaning I am following what Dave teaches in his Financial Peace University, but there are some things I'm not following, and they can be several things. They can either be credit card usage, like still using credit cards. What's another popular one? Like the $1,000 emergency fund, just
the debt avalanche.
Yes, yeah. How to pay off debt. Obviously, baby step 2 in Dave's 7 baby steps is to pay off debt, and it's a big baby step where a lot of people spend a lot of time on. And
there's a method, the debt snowball. It's not any other way to do that.
Right. His method is to list all your debts from smallest to largest, and don't worry about the interest rates. They don't matter. So there are some people who decide they're going to follow it, but they're going to do some tweaking. They're going to make it theirs, or they're going to make it fit their life. And so
I want a larger emergency fund than $1,000.
So the term has been called Dave-ish. So that was a call that recently happened. In fact, it happened today. I'll link it down below so you can see Dave's response to someone who was Dave-ish, who was clearly not following the baby steps, but they were calling to ask Dave for advice. I mean, what do you...
Yeah, he called to ask Dave for advice. Well, the weirdest thing about it was that he didn't do Financial Peace University, but he signed up to be a coordinator for Financial Peace University. It's crazy.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't know if he really understood or not, but there are some people who just want to tweak something. So I bake, I follow recipes, but sometimes I don't want to add a whole cup of sugar into these cookies or this cake or whatever I'm making. I'll sometimes lower the sugar, because I have little children. I don't want them bouncing off the wall all day. So some people think they can take that mentality into personal finance.
Yeah, I mean, like, and going on the cookie thing, like, you're expecting the cookies to taste the same as the cookies on the recipe.
No, actually,
and you expect those same comments on the bottom. Oh, this is a great stuff.
Not necessarily. I expect it to be less sweet. I mean, that's my whole point of changing it. But anyways, I don't think it's quite the same. So we are on a debt-free journey. We are on baby step 2. We are following Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University plan. But we were Dave-ish. We'll just put it out there. At a point, we were still investing while we were getting out of debt, like through Oren's work. And we have since stopped that. It takes some work to actually go in and get your password and figure all this stuff out. You know what I mean? You remember that? When we had to stop the 401k and all that stuff, contributions.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I mean, that really wasn't, it was just more of us being lazy than really Davis. Like, we didn't want to go in there. Like, Dave said, hey, turn off your 401ks while you're getting out of debt. Because it makes sense.
Yeah.
But, that's a big process in itself to even dive into and figure out.
And we have lowered our savings down to just $1,000. Like, it's literally $1,000, not a penny more. And what we are saving is just self-employment. So that's all the other little chunk of money we have. So and that's it. And it is it does make you feel bare, And then the biggest thing is when we were getting out of debt, we started with a car loan. And we started off with a private student loan. Those loans really should have been listed smallest to largest. And had they been, we would not have gotten to them yet. Because the car loan was like $13,000, $14,000. Plus the interest probably would have grown even more by now.
Mm.
And right now we're at a loan where it's like $6,000. So we wouldn't have even touched the car. So what we did when we did get our car, we attacked that first.
Yeah,
so
we had to kill that thing. I mean, let's be real. It needed to be done.
So in that sense, we were Dave-ish.
And I won't even say were, because if that car thing happened again, or not even not happening again, but if it was still going on, or if brought into that same situation, I would still recommend us paying off that car first because of the APR.
What? So then,
I'm still Dave-ish on that.
You want to be Dave-ish? No.
Look, in 3 more years, it would have rose up to that $24,000 or whatever.
We spent $15,000 on it. So say we poured that $15,000 into our student loans, where would we be? I mean,
we would
a little further along, like almost.
Yeah,
done.
but then also we'll be driving a car we don't own and
Yeah.
stuff. I mean,
The point is, we are no longer Dave-ish. We are following the plan, and there are some temptation to still be Dave-ish, to still try to invest because we're in our mid-30s. I've considered that. We are not saving as we should for retirement. And then there's the idea of the emergency fund, especially the times we live in now where inflation and layoffs and all this uncertainty with the economy. There's the temptation to buy a house before we're out of debt. That's being Dave-ish too. And we've had this discussion, especially like a couple years ago, we had it really hard. Like, we've had serious house fever, and now the rates are so high to where it's like, hey, should we be jumping in or not? But no, we're just going to follow the plan. And here's the kicker. The reason why we're following the plan, because it is proven. It is something that has worked. Now, I guess the issue is that people who are Dave-ish, it has quote unquote worked for them too. And I think that's the problem. You know, like, how do you reconcile that for people who are not following the plan, but things are still kind of working out? I guess it's just a law of averages, like that for some people it can.
Yeah, like Dave's saying his plan is proven, and you know the idea there is that the most percentage of average American people should be able to be successful if they're following that plan. And it's proven, and it's really studied. You know, the 1,000 being just a little bit, but just enough to give it a little bit of help, but it's still enough to be like, yo, I need to put more in here, but I gotta get out of this debt first. Show how important debt, you know, getting out of the debt is. Like, baby step one is just, you know, any baby can take that first step. But if a baby takes that first step, that's not really a step. They're just, you know, they're just lifting up a foot and putting it down. The second step shows that they're walking. You know, that second step is that big one.
Okay, yeah. So I had a pastor who, when I was growing up, and he used to say that a bald man, no offense to you, but a bald man can't sell me hair. Like, if, you know, you don't have any proof or that you can grow hair, then it's very difficult to follow what you say. And so that's another reason why I am willing to follow this Dave plan and go along with it, is because it has proven to work. It has proven results. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is following Dave Ramsey's advice to a T. Is it like being in some sort of cult or some sort of, you know, you got to do what I say or you're out the club and you're just cut off and, you know, we hate your guts. Like, so I don't think it's like that. I think it can be like that, and some people could be like that, as with a lot of other beliefs about anything. You know, so we're part of the quote unquote homeschool community. It can get like that. Some people who are, you know, the homeschool or public school, and they can just, you know, they're going to die on this mountain of, you know, hammering into people that you should do this. And so I get all that. I think that's just with anything. We're all people. We all have opinions. And I think that's just where all that comes from.
Or like cooking a recipe, once again, you know, following the recipe.
The clip today talked about how Dave is not upset with people who don't follow his plan. It's not a thing that is offensive. But they described it, him and the co-host described it as they just want the best for people. And they know that their plan works. And they want that for people.
I do picture it more so like, you know, this is a doctor's message or whatever. Like, the doctor says, hey, you know, eat your greens and eat your fruits and vegetables and stuff to stay healthy. And you could deviate from that by, hey, instead of doing that, I'm going to take vitamins. And, you know, I'm going to do more workouts or less workouts than the doctor says. And, you know, you might get the same results, but you didn't follow the doctor's plan. And that's the obvious, clear cut. You know, either you're following the Dave Ramsey plan or you're not. And it is fine either way.
Yeah. I mean, like, everyone's adults, as he has said, But I think where the tension comes in is if someone is saying with their mouth, okay, yeah, I want to follow this plan, but then you're not, that's where it comes to where it seems like he and other people are being pushy about it. It's because, hey, you said you want to do this, so this is how we do it, or this is how the plan is done. So I think whoever is going through their personal finance journey, whatever that is, debt payoff or what have you, you have to decide, do you want to follow the plan or not? Because if you don't, then there's no need to call into the show, or there's no need to ask other people who are following it what to do, because you've already decided that you want to do what you want to do. You want to do what you think will make sense in your mind. I will say too, is the idea of maybe being rude or name calling or being dismissive or degrading someone because they are not following the Dave Ramsey plan. That doesn't deter me. Maybe it's because I used to be in the military. Maybe it's because I used to work in a county jail. Maybe it's that. Maybe I have thicker skin. Who knows? But I also think we'll just say, because we all know that Ramsey Solutions is, a Christian-based organization. Being a Christian as well, I will say in the Bible, Jesus wasn't always rainbows and sunshine. He in the Bible in general, there is talk of, if you read Proverbs, calling things or calling people a fool or being foolish, if you do this, if you do that, or Jesus confronting the Pharisees and calling them vipers, calling them names. So I don't think that calling someone a name is necessarily a attack on the person. I think once again, it's attack on principle of what the person is doing, the context of why we're saying this. And once again, I feel it is a source of that it could be a turnoff. I can totally understand it, but I think it's also kind of a sense of motivation for you to see, okay, maybe this is foolish and I don't want to be foolish. No one wants to be foolish. Nobody wants to be stupid, all that stuff. And, no offense either, but we have other celebrities or high profile people speaking specifically to rap, which I guess maybe not everyone listens to. I don't either. But they call each other actual, degrading names. And nobody says anything about that. It's all supported and stuff. But then you have somebody trying to help someone financially and they're being criticized for saying stupid or something is stupid, or I don't know. I just find that interesting.
I'm just going through these steps to follow Dave Ramsey's plan, get our family where we need to be.
Yeah, and I think it's the idea that most people are not financially literate. So this is something that is helping someone. It's not to control them or to have some sort of ego boost because you're doing what I say. It's to help. It really is a source of hope because the majority of the country doesn't have any sort of plan or anything, or what they think that they're doing is not helping them. It's putting them further and further into financial insecurity. So I think people who are not Christians, or maybe people who don't understand that world, have the most issue with Dave Ramsey because they don't get it. And that's what a lot of his principles are built on. Unless you're a believer, unless you're a Christian, and I'm not saying you just hear about it or you have a surface level understanding, unless you actually believe it and you're living it, you're not going to get it. I'm sorry, you're not. And then you are going to have these criticisms, which is okay. You're not, you're just not. So
I mean, sometimes there are people who could not follow the Bible or not believe in the Bible, but also understand wisdom and sound.
But do they really?
That's
what I'm saying. I don't think they really understand it.
They at least understand, hey, if I follow this, I can get out of debt.
But they don't have a conviction about debt. They think, okay, debt's okay. They're okay with certain kind of debt.
I pictured that it was like the Queen of Sheba, who I don't believed in God, but she went to King Solomon for advice because she saw the product of what he was doing, what he had. He had all this wealth and stuff. She wanted to know how she could build up her country that way, and he accepted her gifts, and he taught her what it meant to do that. Like how wisdom in running a country is.
Yeah, I guess
You know,
so.
she's not really a believer.
Right. But still, I think most of the criticism is from people who don't understand. They don't understand about giving. Like, I find it real interesting that they'll cut off step 7, which is give and be outrageously generous. They don't believe in that. You know, we get questions all the time about why we're still tithing. Like, they don't get that. And then the idea of paying off debt is biblical. You know, aside from the gazelle part that's in Proverbs, it just talks about not owing anybody anything. And if you if you make an oath, which is what a loan is, say I'm going to pay you, that you actually pay it, that you don't try to like weasel your way out of it and wait for someone else to pay it. Like, those kind of values and morals, you can only understand if you are living it like as a Christian. Like, I don't know.
You can understand it better if you're living as a Christian.
Yeah, you would understand it better, which is fine, you know, if you're not.
I mean, there are some some actual Christians who are growing in their understanding on it, though.
Yes, yeah, and obviously we're not perfect either. Perfect Christians. We are still growing too.
Why would somebody who doesn't follow Dave Ramsey's plan completely, dare or even want to get advice from Dave Ramsey on some things? Like, hey, I don't agree with this. But I want to call in to get help for this. Now, this guy didn't do that. You know, I think he was obviously oblivious towards the whole thing. But there are people who are like, hey, I don't want to follow Dave on this, but I need some help, with my investments and stuff while I have $500,000 of debt over here, or $20,000 of debt over here.
I don't think he was oblivious, because he said, y'all are going to yell at me, but I have $2,000 in credit card.
But they said because he's already been yelled at, because that's why he assumed that. It's because he already had, he's talking from experience, not from some kind of knowledge. Like, oh, I know that y'all are going to yell at me because I feel guilt for it. No, he was this, he would never, I would have some kind of shame calling, like, you would have watched Dave enough, especially if you're a long-time listener, you would know what will happen if you called in and saying the stuff that he said.
Yeah, yes,
you should know this person who says Dave Ramsey sucks in this area, but I'm going to call anyway, and ask him for some advice. I think that's horrible. I think that's like ridiculous. That's like going to a store that you don't believe in, or going shopping, or you want to be on a diet to lose weight, even though I can't Ballman can't sell hair, but you're on a diet to lose weight, but then you go to McDonald's. Like, it doesn't make sense. What you're saying doesn't line up or add up. If you follow the ingredients to a cookie recipe, I just talked about losing weight, now I'm talking about cookies. You can't say, hey, you're in the cookie cult because you're following this grandma's recipe on how to make cookies the right way, or how to make pralines the right way, or how to make a sandwich, and if you can do it with food, you can do it with anything. Like, I follow steps on how to fix a certain area on the car. I watch YouTube videos on how to do this or do that. And if I don't want to mess it up, I try to follow the best I can. That's not a cult. Dave Ramsey's plan is just the best that we can do, and the thing that we can follow to be the most careful without losing all our money and being stupid with it. Like, he says mutual funds, not just invest all the way in risky stocks. This is the best, safest way to earn wealth, and not just some risky stuff. So, I don't call it a cult. There's some things about the actual cult that makes it a cult, and it's not just following steps, following a plan.